Good evening. I'd like to call the school committee meeting of June 24th, 2025 to order. We all stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Chris, would you read the mission statement?
Falmouth Public Schools mission. The Falmouth Public Schools creates world-class student learning experiences. Our Clippers are empowered to pursue their goals with curiosity, integrity, and resiliency. Falmouth Public Schools vision. Clippers are creative, inquisitive, and engaged learners who participate in their community as socially responsible citizens. Clippers effectively communicate and solve problems that impact the world around them.
Okay. We are reopening after executive session. I don't know if I need to mention that, but just as a point of order. And I would like to read the recording statement. In accordance to the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, I would like to remind anyone that this meeting is being recorded. If any member of the public would like to make an audio or video recording of this meeting, please notify me by raising your hand, either in person or remote. Okay, thank you. Would you please state your name? Okay, thank you. Additionally, all participants are reminded to mute their microphones when not speaking to minimize background noise. So we will now have public comment. Members of the public are welcome to speak about items that are not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes in length. Due to open meeting law, the committee cannot act on public comment. For items on the agenda, the chair may accept comments from the public following the committee's discussion of an item. Additional comments and feedback can also be submitted by email to Falmouth School Committee at falmouth.k12.ma.us. Is there anybody who would like to make public comment? Yes. Yes, please. Recently, we are required to ask your address. You don't need to give your street number, but just your street name, please. Just.
They say other than
Seriously.
Good evening, my name is Kathy Thomas. I live on Teaticket Highway. I'm a concerned grandparent of 2 children who currently attend the Falmouth Public Schools. I have had a child or grandchild in the Falmouth Public Schools for the last 39 years. Going forward, I do not know what your plan is for the elementary schools. I know you want an early learning center. I have nothing against early education, as I myself am an early child educator. I do have a problem with Falmouth Public Schools opening one if your solution is then to merge 2 schools. I seriously thought the school merging was off the table, and I'm hoping that was true. If it's not true, it should be. I strongly oppose overcrowding, and that is not acceptable, especially if it's happening in just one school. If one school is shut down, then all of the elementary schools should equally be affected. I've heard at a past school committee meeting, a member say that they're here because they care about the students and their education. Do you? Do you really? Then the decision should be made as to what is actually best for the children and not what is easiest or most convenient for you. Please take a hard look at what is best for the students and the families involved. I heard at one meeting a committee member say she didn't want to make a decision against the merge because she had not heard from any parents who were for it, and she wanted to hear from them before making the decision. She did not hear from any parents in favor of a merge because there weren't any. Who would want to sign their child up for overcrowding? The superintendent said the overcrowding would just be for a few years. So for these few years, the education of the students at this particular school wouldn't matter? I'm hoping that you will look long and hard at your choices and pick the choice that benefits the children, all of the children, not just some of the children. I appreciate your time, and I hope you're truly listening to what the families who would be affected by this want. The voices of the families deserve to be heard. We do know what is best for our children. Thank you.
Is there any other person who would like to make a public comment? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody at home? I don't.
No.
No, okay. All right, moving along then, our next item on the agenda will be an update from the superintendent.
Right, thank you, Terry. So the first update, continued good news with the state budget process. So it went to the budget conference that I talked about at the last meeting. And they did vote to go to the higher number that the Senate submitted. And so then it passed the House and passed the Senate. So it is now on the governor's table. So this is, I'm speaking about the circuit breaker portion. This would raise the reimbursement from a 44% level to a 75% level of reimbursement. Don't get too excited. It's not 75% of the entire bill. It's only 75% after you meet the threshold. So I just want to, but still, it's still an improvement over last. Not only did they do that, but they so next year we get payment for this year. So it's always done in a year later. It's already also budgeted for the FY27 and voted. So for the next year. So it's very good news. And so I just want to share, and that's now sitting on the governor's desk. So good news. The next thing I want to mention, we have talked many times about the circuit breaker and the amount of money and the cost over the last couple of years, and that we have been drawing down from the stabilization fund. And we've talked about the replenishment. So I just wanted to mention now that we will be bringing forward a article that's going to ask to have it replenished at the November meeting. So just more to come, but just wanted you to know that we're still in the process with the town as to getting those articles together. So I want to do that. And then the third thing tonight I want to talk about is the North Falmouth roof procurement process. And I'm going to actually turn it over to Paul so he can speak about that.
Okay, let me just say, we're going to go into a little bit of detail because of questions asked by the public about the procurement process for the North Falmouth roof. So I just wanted to walk you through the thought process behind that. So you all may be familiar with it. Some of it may get a little detailed, so I beg your forgiveness on that, but it's a good time to get people familiar with it. There was a bid protest that was filed by a citizen that we have responded to that by outside counsel. So while there can be a couple questions, I prefer that we kind of hold questions until that matter is resolved. But let me just walk you through the high level of it. And first, let me just give you a bit of history. So if you recall, there was a Teaticket roofing project done in the summer of 22. All right, where the entire roof was replaced and some masonry work done on the outside of the building. That project was budgeted for 3.5 million. It came in just around 3.7 million for a budget. It came in, and the total cost was around $3.5 million. So it came in under budget. The OPM, the owner's project manager for that project, was a company called Left Field. And the individual who was assigned to that project from Left Field, the senior project manager, was James Reefstall. And the architect on that project was Slam Collaborative. And the contractor on that project was Capeway Roofing. So those three companies delivered that project under budget and on time. And for the general public, one of the challenges of doing a school-based project is getting it done in the summer months. So you have roughly 44 days, for example, to do the North Falmouth roofing project. We have 8 rain days on top of that if we get rained out during the work week. So you're really under a lot of pressure to get a project done. Otherwise, it could end up by affecting the opening of the school come September. So on time is a really good feature. And obviously under budget speaks for itself. So that's the context, all right? So in April of 2023, the town approved an article for $240,000 to study the roofing needs of 3 schools: East Falmouth, North Falmouth, and Morse Pond. East Falmouth was determined it did not need a roof. The 2 roofs that were determined to be needing, and the one that needed it the quickest was North Falmouth. So at this point, we could use that money that was approved under the town article to then continue on into the next design phase, in this case for the North Falmouth project. So within that 240,000, we had accomplished the study of the 3 roofs and now moved into using the remaining fund for the actual initial architectural design of the roof. So that was April 23, moving into the summer. Now come October of 23, we submitted what they call an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. An RFQ is how you choose an OPM, right? It's qualifications based. It's not price based. So you pick a firm, for example, that has done a lot of work on schools, that has extensive experience, say with the MSBA projects, that has done work for the town or has done work for the Falmouth Public School System. And for us, the most important feature of that is, have they done work for the school system? Have they done work for the town? And do they meet the other qualifications, having done extensive school-based work? On that basis, Left Field was chosen again to be the OPM for the initial stage of the design work for North Falmouth. Likewise, another RFQ was issued for the architect. And under that criteria, the same criteria, SLAM Collaborative, who had done the architectural work for the Teaticket school, was selected as the architect to be used for the North Falmouth project. So that started this work. Now that initial phase went up until the point of what they call the 50% design stage. And at that point, the architect can now submit the design that they have to their cost estimators, and they can then come up with a total cost of the project. So that came into the March, April, May period where those final numbers were completed. And now pens down. That ended the first phase because you cannot spend any money beyond what was initially allocated. All right. So in April of 24, we then go to the town with this cost estimate for the $4.9 million roofing project for North Falmouth. All right. Town meeting overwhelmingly approves that project. It goes to a ballot measure. Town voters overwhelmingly approve the project, but the funding doesn't become available until July. So now we have to start a second phase of this this project. So we issued a second RFQ, request for qualifications. We issued another RFQ for the architect and design. And through this process, in a qualifications-based process, which is essentially a subjective process, we then choose the firm Next Level to be our OPM. The question is, why Next Level? It's because the individual who worked at Left Field, who worked on the Teaticket project, who then went on to work with us on the initial stage of the North Falmouth project, has now spun out and created his own firm. And so it is that individual that we felt the most comfortable with, having our knowledge of having worked on the Teaticket project and on the initial design of the North Falmouth project. So on that basis, since he was working with us on that design and on other smaller projects, we chose him to continue to work with us under the RFQ process. And we also picked Slam Collaborative to continue, given the same history, to continue to work with us on and finish the design on the North Falmouth. So now the design work was finished and the project now goes out to bid. And we received 4 bids for the construction of the project. The highest bid was 4.7 million and change. The lowest bid was 2.1 million. The lowest bid did not include the engineering work, the civil engineering work that was required under the project. They viewed it as only a roofing project, despite instruction otherwise. That bidder, as soon as they realized their mistake, withdrew the bid for what they call clerical error. They made a mistake in the bidding process. So that eliminated the low bid. The next bid up, the next lowest bidder, was Cape Way Roofing at $3.3 million and change. Cape Way Roofing won the bid. They are the same company that we had used on the Teaticket process. So through a competitive process, Cape Way Roofing won the bid at $3.3 million. They were the lowest bid. All right, so what do we have today? We have an OPM that worked with us on Teaticket. We have the architects that worked with us on the Teaticket project. And now through the competitive low bid process, we have Cape Way Roofing doing this project. This project is underway. It started, in fact, Monday with the stripping of the roof. It's well progressing, et cetera. But that essentially the team that delivered the Teaticket project under budget, on time, has been reassembled through a competitive process to do the North Falmouth roof project. So that's the history of the process, all right? All right.
Okay,
Next.
we go around the room for, remember our,
I know we said we're gonna do questions, so I just wanted to say thank you.
oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
It was really informative. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted
That
to
was very-
acknowledge
That was very helpful.
that, even though we can't answer questions because of the big complaint or whatever it's called, but.
I don't have a question. I also just want to thank you and thanks for getting the dream team back together.
Yeah.
You know, being somebody who sat here and watched the Teaticket project come in under budget and on time, to know that that potential is there again is remarkable, especially it's unheard of in construction. So thanks.
Susan?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
I felt like I was watching Ocean's 11 or something. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Narrative.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Anything else?
No.
Oh,
I want to thank you. I also want to thank you for the thoroughness of your work you do, because we have to do the North Falmouth roofing now because it wasn't done correctly. And knowing that you are very careful about what you do, we really are grateful for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
one thing I wasn't aware of is the drainage problem that leaks the water into the building too.
Yeah.
That's far away from what I thought a roofing would entail. So, yeah, yeah. So, thank you for
All
a
right.
very thorough report,
All
Paul.
right, thank you.
Superintendent, anything
That
else?
completes the update tonight.
Okay, I'm really happy to announce the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation of the Sharing Kindness Program. So.
You can be really careful with this chair.
Wait, you said that.
Good evening, Superintendent, it's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
Superintendent at the South Bay, Falmouth Public Schools. I'm Kathleen Shine O'Brien. I'm the Director of Clinical and Community Services at Sharing Kindness. We are a nonprofit, we're relatively young. We are 7 years officially a 501c3. We started with suicide prevention awareness education work, and we morphed into doing peer grief support, which is actually suicide prevention in a more upstream way. And one of the things that happened as we were starting to do our work and fit the gaps in services across the Cape and both islands, we were sort of reassured that the people on Cape Cod don't like to travel, especially over the bridge, but not exclusively over the bridge. We are in Harwich. And so what we decided we needed to do in order to meet the needs of our school children who were bereaved was to begin doing peer grief support in schools. We met with Lori, we met with Alan, we met with Sandy. We stated our case and we were granted permission, and I believe it was brought before this committee for approval. So thank you. So what I'm here to do this evening is to just tell you how much I love your kids. I'm a sandwich person for many, many years, close to 50 years. We recently moved to Bourne, and I said to my husband after my first 6 weeks in doing a Falmouth project, why the heck didn't we move to Falmouth? So I will tell you what Sharing Kindness did. We facilitated 4 clinician-led peer grief support groups at Morse Pond, Lawrence, and Falmouth High School. The really operative word here is clinician-led. All of our peer grief support groups are led by a licensed clinician who are trained by us in addition to having their state licensure for a couple of reasons. We want to make sure that they are grief informed. We want to make sure that they are giving psychoeducation to people that is correct information and not part of a family bias or their own grief lens. And so we have been very, very fortunate to have a number of clinicians across the Cape and the islands that have been trained. They all have other day jobs, and they have worked with us. Before the groups actually start, and this is one of the key points that I want to make, I provide what's called Grief 101, Cultivating a Grief-Informed School, in each of the buildings where we are going to have peer grief support. And the reason for that is, imagine we do all this work for 6 or 8 weeks with the kids, and they leave the group and they go to a staff member at their building who isn't grief informed. It potentially can undo all of the work that we've done. It confuses children. It may give them misinformation through no sense of malice, but just because somebody thinks that they're doing the right thing. In order to do a Grief 101, administrators in buildings have to do a big dance. They need to make sure that they're maintaining the contractual agreements with their staff. They scoop me in when they can, and I oblige. And I am able to do this, as you know, Superintendent, in 30 minutes or less if you all have a presentation that comes before mine.
Sorry about that.
No, it was very informative, and I can speak really fast. And so we got it all done. The point is, we need to create safe and supportive environments for conversations about grief and loss. And we recognize that grief isn't only about death loss, it's about other losses. But for our purposes, it's a death loss. We also know that we improve student outcomes by providing grief support and having those supportive people within the buildings. We also advocate for grief-informed strategies with school leaders. We identify appropriate grief and loss intervention by age group. And we allow staff, this was fascinating, we allow staff to look at their own grief biases. What did your family do when somebody died? Could you talk about it? Did pictures come down? Was it never spoken of again? And whatever your story is, how have you internalized that and perhaps unwittingly extended that to the students that you're teaching? And I don't think we've ever had a Grief 101 where at least 2 or 3 faculty members have come up and said, oh my God, I think I need to write letters of apology to students I've had in the past. Absolutely not. What you did was out of the goodness and kindness of your heart. You didn't know any better, but now you do. and what difference that's going to make for the kids. There is a wonderful PDF that you can access. I didn't bring copies. It's very long. It's called Becoming Grief Informed, a Call to Action. And it's put out by the Dudley Center, which is the nation's oldest bereavement center in the country, out of Portland, Oregon, where I happened to be trained the summer of 2019. So that sort of puts that piece in its nice little package. Each 6-week group is a curriculum-based program. All of these students, as you probably already know, are chosen by guidance staff in the buildings. Sharing Kindness provides them, the MOU has already been signed. Sharing Kindness provides them with a letter to the parents and a registration. In building, they send that out to the parents return it to that person in the building, who then share it with us. And that way, there's no confusion about who's in charge. Falmouth Public Schools is in charge. We are just coming in. And may I also add, and perhaps important, at no cost to the school. So when we do our curriculum, we start with grief information. We talk about feelings, we talk about emotions, we talk about coping skills, and we always have really fun activities that we do. We do a really cool one called Care Tags, and I have the kids come over and I ask if I can look at the back of their shirt. And I say, oh my gosh, this is so cool. To keep this shirt perfect, it has to be line dry, no blowout. And the kids are looking at me like, what? And I say, can I see the back of your neck? There's no care tag on the back of your neck. Kids that are grieving don't have a care tag. How do we fix that? And so the kids create their own care tags about the things that they need. We also have done affirmation rocks. We've done circles of support. Who are the people that you can go to? Who are the people that you trust? Who are the people that make you feel seen and heard? Who are the people that you can say the hard things? And then one of my most fun things I did at Falmouth High School. Lori, are you okay?
Only you would
You know, I do swap rings to people. I've never had anybody choke on my watch, so please. That's not
I'm good now. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
So I said to the kids one Monday, next week we have a panel of experts coming in, and I think you're really going to like it. These are people that really know about grief. They're going to be very informative, and I think they're really going to help you on your journey. So the next Monday I come in with Katie Faust. You're looking around. Nobody's there but Katie and me and 10 kids. They're like, what happened to the expert? I said, oh gosh, see those chairs lined up over there? Would you all go over to the chairs, please? Now they're like, she's really lost it.
Yeah.
And you are our panel of experts. You echo your own. I had prearranged with one of the students to ask pre-designed questions of these other students in the group. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And high school students are really hard to crack the core, particularly when it comes to asking them to be vulnerable and to share some of these really, really hard issues. And they were able to do it. So success all there. Our end of group surveys were overwhelmingly positive. 100% of the kids said they'd recommend the group to other bereaved students. One student said they would not, and I asked why, and they said, because that means somebody else belongs to the Dead Parents Club. Fair enough. Most of the students were unaware that there were other bereaved students, even in their own class. So we're sitting around a table, whether it was the younger kids or the high school kids, and they were like, you too? You too? And as they started to share their stories in very careful ways, some of the more stigmatized losses were able to be talked about. And that's certainly suicide, homicide, and drug overdose, of which there were many. All of these students in these particular groups had all had parental loss. So there was a separate bonding that happened around there. And second losses were about moving to a new town, having to have new friends, coming to a new school, loss of familiarity, change in family dynamics, living with grandparents, all of which was really difficult for these kids at the beginning. And then they were able to talk about it and give tiny little pieces of advice about how they negotiated and navigated some of these secondary losses. It was also helpful, I think, to be able to contextualize these feelings as normal. It feels like you're going crazy. Even if the loss happened when you were 2 and you're now in 8th grade. And as you're looking to move to high school, what does that feel like? Many families don't talk about grief with their kids. They don't want their kids to talk about it with them. It makes them sad. So this was a safe place, a very brave space for them to be able to share some of these feelings. A lot of times kids want to talk about anger. I'm really mad at them because, at least they talk about it. I would rather you talk about it in this group and you get it out here and we can come up with some healthy coping skills than have you sock a kid in the McDonald's parking lot when you're angry about this, but something they've done has annoyed you. One student at Lawrence School said, you know, Kathleen, I pray to my dad every night. He's still a good man. And I'm proud he was my dad, even if it was a really short time. And she was the little girl that was 2 when he died. And what she hears from her family and family friends is that he was a no good so-and-so because he was a drug user. And she's like, he's my dad and I'm still proud of him. So I want to do one thing in closing. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing us to do this. I have to give shouts to Morse Pond, Lawrence, and Falmouth High School, Kathleen Fideli, Selby Bourne, and Katie Felt for their guidance, support, love, and partnership. Adore them. Couldn't ask for more wonderful, compassionate people. Very happy to partner with them. No issues. We had 0 issues. If we had questions, we went to them, they were answered. If they had questions, they came to us, and we all did our jobs beautifully. But one of the things that I want to share with you tonight, Sandy had asked if I wanted to do a PowerPoint, and I said, I have to share this. So one of the things we did was grief for watercolors. And we took pieces of watercolor paper and we put plain water on it. And then they were invited to drop dabs of paint on it and with a straw, blow the paint around with the intention that as they're blowing, they think about a grief experience, they think about an emotion, they think about a memory. So I really wanted it to be intentional. So bear with me. I'll show it to you because it's really cool. This young man who's a 7th grader said, this represents when I die, please don't cry, look in the sky and just say goodbye. This is from a young lady who's an 8th grader. I've grieved you longer than I knew you. This is I was 2 when my father died and now I'm in 8th grade. Young woman is just phenomenal. I will be really excited to see where she is. And this is her painting. And she put it down and she said, that's enough. The other kids are madly blowing paint all over the place. And the next week when I asked her what her painting represented, she said, this isn't mine, this is from dear Evan Hansen. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in as you reach up and you will rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. Her partner across the table, an 8th grade male, said, I have no words. I don't feel seen or heard. No one understands. I'm invisible, except for in here. Can you imagine being a kid and being able to do this and say this to your peers? Can you imagine the feeling of the weight being lifted by being able to acknowledge, I missed you longer than you were here. I've loved you longer than you were here. I don't feel seen and heard. And to be able to feel loved and supported. So I will end with, please invite us back. We would love to come. It has been an extreme pleasure for all of us to be here, and your kids are pretty fabulous. I say, whatever you're doing for these Clippers, keep on doing it because it's working. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a first read on the capital plan for the November town meeting.
All right, back to me again. So you had in your packet the,
Wait, you have copies, you gotta pass them out.
yep,
There, yeah, they're.
oh, sorry. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Oh.
We gotta get a bigger paper.
So this is a copy of the 10-year capital plan. I'll just give you an overview as we're passing it out. So when it comes time to acting on the capital plan for next year, it'll be obviously the fiscal year 26 column. That will be acting on as a.
You got it.
I'm gonna walk you through this. Let me give you some high level thoughts. You'll see under C funding April 2026 if the MSBA invitation is received in December. So, and you'll see $2 million there. So I put that down here, but it will not be an article for November. It's a reference point because we're talking about a capital plan over 10 years. If it gets approved, if we're invited in December, and depending on which cohort we're invited into, the first funding request could come as early as April of next year. So that I wanted to put it down here for that purpose. But for next week, for the next school committee sheet, what you will be voting on will not include that $2 million, because that will be an April item. So we just clear on that. And then, and it depends again on if we're invited by the MSBA to join in the school renovation project. I want to go over to the other fiscal year 28 number, and I want to make this statement 150 times over. This is a guesstimate. This is a placeholder. There is no science to this number. We have to put something down for the town to have for its 10-year plan. So this $150 million, you can't come back in 2 years and say, you told me $150 million. We do not have a number. We're just putting a placeholder on this column for fiscal year 28. And it all depends on if we're invited into the program. We will not have a number for this renovation till about 2 years from the date of invitation. Okay, so we have to put something down for the town for a capital number, but this is a placeholder only. It's a guesstimate. I can't emphasize this enough. There's nothing official on this number. Just everybody out there, please. All right, so part of the sensitivity was fiscal year 26 was just because we may be coming down the road here in the 2 million to think about what our true needs for the district are going for next year. So let me just talk through the fiscal year 26 column. First one is Project Adventure. You may be familiar, we just came to town funding on this project. However, we now think there are 2 better locations for the Project Adventure. Project Adventure is the challenge course at Falmouth High School, you know, the with the zip lines and climbing, et cetera, that and it's in the back by the football field at the high school. It currently rests on partly on the property of the YMCA, so we do have to move it. And where it's today, it's right in the middle of the trees. There are several other locations on the other opposite side of the football stadium that it would be better located. As a result of that, relocating, we're gonna have to redesign it. We can actually and permit it, so we're gonna have to have engineering plans to put this on the course. And the other thought behind this is that we want to add some lower elements for you know, if we have handicapped students that wouldn't be able to use the high elements, the zip lines and so on, there are other obstacle components that we could use at lower elements. So those two features, we're gonna go back to add $75,000 to cover the cost of that project. Our hope is to have the project done by the second semester or the second half of fiscal year 20 of next year, fiscal year 26, with the lower elements added thereafter. So it'll be 2 phases here. So that's Project Adventure, roughly 75,000. You move down to Teaticket now is the modular units at Teaticket essentially just need to be resided. There's rot underneath the current siding at Teaticket. We need to pull it off. The modular units themselves are in good condition. They're actively used, so we do want to maintain them. So that's an estimate of the residing for that project. And then the remaining categories are categories that we have every year. So that is door replacement, $80,000, and doors are anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 for a single door for an outdoor door, you know, do an exit door, or they could be 24,000 if you had one of the big double doors, like in the front entranceway of a building. So we quickly go through this budget every year. We had nothing left of it. The next one down is floor repairs. We've been doing projects at individual schools across the district. We are doing that this summer as well at Teaticket and at East Falmouth, North Falmouth as well, but under that article. So we've done projects at the high school. So flooring repairs, this is what we've been asking for every year. Painting, this is both exterior and interior painting. We have a need throughout the district to, you know, sort of update our rooms. Van purchases, in this case, we're gonna replace one of the white vans that you see outside, that the 7D vans we use for special education transportation. The oldest ones are roughly in the 225 to 250,000 mile range. But the other purchase that we're making is last year we bought a 14-passenger bus, minibus, that we use for transporting the athletic teams, and the coaches can drive the bus. They don't need the commercial driver's license to do it. That one bus that we bought last year has saved us close to 60,000, if not more, by not having to hire Lucini to transport a sports team. And so, and it's very expensive to do these sports team runs. So purchasing another one of our buses allows us to use it for the bigger teams, not quite as big as a football team, but for, you know, the tennis teams, the, you know, golf teams, etc., that we may need 2 buses. So that would be in there, as I mentioned, plus the 7D van. So the total would be $2,870,000. Again, if we don't, the $2 million would be that dependent on the MSBA project. So that when you come to vote at the next meeting, that will not be in this figure. You are just voting on 870 for next year's capital plan. Is there any questions on that?
Margaret?
No, so-
Oh, sorry. Right. Are any of the vans electric? The new van?
Yeah, we do have one van that's electric. We're adding another electric van as well. And that second, the one van that we have is electric, we use for the clubs, this, you know, a chess club meeting to go to in Mashpee.
Right, not as far.
Not as far as off Cape, we don't send it over the bridge, it just doesn't hold the charge that much. We'll do another electric van this coming year. And that will be put on some of the daily routes for the special education. We'll be testing that as a vehicle for eventually seeing how much we can use it locally.
So this replacement van that you just mentioned though
Will
is
be,
the normal van?
yeah,
Just a replacement for. the-
right. Right.
Mike?
I have two, if I could. The first one's is a two-parter. The 2 million for the MSBA funding,
Mhm.
what is the difference in the 2 million and the 150 million?
Sure. So when you're invited into the program
Yeah,
for renovation, the first step that happens in that process, you have to raise roughly $1.5 million to $2 million rate, between $1.5 million and $2 million. And that money is for hiring an OPM and a designer to help you with the project. So the MSBA says, okay, by this date of after the following the invitation, you have to get that initial funding approved by the town. And if you don't, then you're out of the process.
okay.
Okay, so that's the first. And then the next stage, you go through the design phase and you come to an agreement with the MSBA on the entire project and funding. You now have to come to the town and have it vote on the entire project cost.
Okay.
Pre-MSBA funding.
Yeah.
So they want you to say, the town is approved, if the project is 150 million, they want the town to vote on 150 million, even if maybe 50 million of that is coming from the MSBA. They want approval for the full project cost. So that's the second vote. But it's really as a way of the MSBA judging the support of the town over the phases of the renovation project.
Okay, and then the follow-up question would be that if hypothetically you did the 2 million and that 150 million failed a townwide vote, then we just lost $2 million for design.
That's right.
That's, and then I don't know, you know, off the top of your head, you don't know this, but what would the tax implication for an override of 150 be for the average household? Because I think that we need to address that before we go too far into this. One of our purviews is finance, obviously. And if the tax burden on that 150 is so great that we're not going to get support for it, and this is on the heels of the new nitrate septic systems, you have people on fixed incomes looking at 30,000-40,000 for a new septic. I mean, I was working a little bit with the football field and the senior center, which was much smaller project. Sorry, Ryan, I'm back to Mike. And we had a lot of issues getting there. I'm just concerned that we should know the tax burden for that 150 before we start throwing $2 million into something that we might not get done. Then my last point is I do have concern where Morse Pond over the next 6 years has no capital improvements at all. And then year 7, there's just X's, as if this is already a done deal. We're giving Morse Pond back to anyone. And so those 6 years, the kids who might be at Morse Pond, the teachers, the faculty, whomever, it seems like we've already cut bait on Morse Pond before there's been any discussion of that. And that is very concerning to me, especially when we have just X's. Fiscal year 32 on this paper, it looks like Morse Pond is gone. That's extremely concerning, where we are putting money into every other building. Any student, and every student in Falmouth does go to Morse Pond. and there's $0 being allocated at all for that building. So I just wanted to make that point that it looks to me that Morse Pond is already gone, and I don't agree with that. So just for the public record.
Yeah, can I just address that for a sec? Cause I'm glad you brought that up. And again, this is a 10-year
Yep.
plan, so. But let me give you address the exact point that we're making on Morse Pond. We just put out to bid a painting project for $100,000 for painting Morse Pond. So for this summer, so the exterior of the building is being painted
Okay.
for, and we have $100,000 from last year's capital budget to do that
Do that,
very
yeah.
work. Other work that's needed in the Morse Pond School, for example, we've done flooring project. We just did the several rooms at Morse Pond. It's in the system-wide account. So when we say 300,000 for flooring or $80,000 for doors, what we do is we take that and then we look at individual schools and where the need is, and we spend that out of the system-wide budget.
I understand that.
So Morse Pond had several new doors added, had several new floors that were done last year. It's being painted this year. It just had a brand new boiler put in, a brand new univent. All the univents in the room were done. The boiler, I mean, this was all within the last year and a half. So I think we have spent a good deal of money on Morse Pond and to continue to spend on Morse Pond. The only reason to have it out here is that if this projects and if the school decisions is made, we wouldn't be making decisions thereafter. If it's
To that point, when was the
insensitive on
last-
my point, I could take the X's out.
Well, when was the last generator upgrade of Morse Pond? Was that done recently, in the last 5 years, 10 years?
No.
Because all the other schools have generator updates in the next 3 or 4 fiscal years.
Yeah.
So to me, just eyeballing this, it looks like Morse Pond is already a lost cause. And that's that's how it looks. But
Yeah, but again, we're spending $100,000 here this summer
Yeah.
on Morse Pond. I think that would be, that wouldn't, the reality is, and we spent a substantial amount of money there last summer as well, so.
I understand that. I understand the optics of it. It looks like the school system has already written off Morse Pond without a generator upgrade. There's no discussion. Were windows put in recently to Morse Pond? So I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, but the windows are under the system-wide line. So the only major project for windows that we did for school was Lawrence. We've been replacing them over time at different school as the window need repair. So
Okay.
we allocate, if you look under system-wide windows, you'll see the budget for windows every year for the.
Yeah, that budget doesn't change after Morse Pond's been offline hypothetically in this, but I will digress. I don't want to keep too much on.
Susan, any questions?
No, thank you.
Melissa?
No, ma'am.
I have two. One is just a comment. I'm really glad that we've got the AC projects now in the years out, because we've talked about how we're not gonna be able to keep school going in September if it's 100 degrees in the classroom. So I'm grateful for that. And then I had one question. So for the turf field, we know at some point we'll have to do work on it. Do we have to do work before we do the work on it? Do you know what I mean? Like, so often there's like the assessment or planning or whatever has to happen. Are we gonna have to do that before we get to the part of needing to do?
Yeah, as we approach a project, you really have to plan for it several years ahead. In order to get to the point where you now are spending a significant dollar amount on that project, so. The design work that goes into it, the approval for the initial design work into it, the bidding process, the contracting, and then you get to the actual dollars. So if you're looking at a turf field in fiscal year 34, you start to in fiscal year 32, start to put down numbers for design work.
Because I'm just guessing like. I don't know when we're gonna need to replace it, there's probably like people you have to hire, to come and tell you.
Well, we have those people come in every year.
Oh, okay, that answers
So
my question, that's what I was wondering.
the turf field has a very specialized maintenance program that comes in every year, and that field is treated. And all of the debris that gets packed down in there gets pulled up. And the field is essentially restored. Because of that maintenance program, we've actually extended the life
Okay,
of extensively from what the original estimate was on that field. But we do this multiple times throughout the year.
and then they're the ones that say, okay, now you
Yeah,
gotta start making
get
it up,
close, exactly.
that's what I was wondering, thank you.
So that field is in very good shape from what I'm told.
That's great.
Chris?
Just a quick question, under the playground CPC funded, so is that funding that we've already received?
No, that would be, we would apply for that separately as we approach those years.
Gotcha.
And that's a ballpark estimate. But the money that we have received is for the Mullen Hall Playground. That will be renovating come the winter when it's not in use as much as it is now.
Okay,
But that was, this CPC gave us 250,000 for that renovation.
oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Are any of these for any specific schools or kind of just in general?
We kind of put down and we're gonna do a playground assessment for each of the schools. And then come with the timetable, but we've our first effort, we have a lot of projects going on, so our first efforts to deal with the sort of the pipeline of projects we have now, which includes the playground for Mullen Hall.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
So, can I
Okay.
just, did you have a question? 'Cause I wanted to ask
No,
that.
I didn't.
So just as a reminder, we do these 10-year plans, and if you pull out last year's, you will see that there were different items here. And so even though we're planning for 10 years, we're addressing immediate needs each year. And so you see the changes. And these are, a lot of this is placeholders because we just don't know what it is. So just as that reminder. And when you vote in July, again, you're only voting for FY26. You're not voting the entire plan. So the rest of it is just that. It's just, kind of forward thinking about some needs that we might have. And then again, the 2 million will come off. So in July, you'll vote for the 870,000 to go forward to November plans.
Sure, you can go around
I
again.
had asked Lori about the Mullen Hall playground renovation, if there was any information about what that would entail, because I've got a lot of little kids asking me whether their precious rings and monkey bars are going away and whether they're gonna get a seesaw.
Now they,
Curiosity.
yeah, we didn't want to do it in the summer because of it's just so heavily used. So our thought is in sort of prioritizing the time schedule is to do it more along the lines of the winter. And so it's going to be going out to bid in, the next few months.
You know anything about what is getting renovated? Is the whole playground getting redone? Is it just elements?
No, the whole playground will get redone. I mean, almost all of the equipment needs at some level of repair from the evaluation that we see. But we're gonna have a design element first and then a construction process thereafter, so.
I'll ask you more questions later then.
Yeah.
One thing that Katrina had asked about was a tree, the shade tree, but it was dead. So
Okay,
we wanted to.
everyone noticed when it went away.
Yeah. A lot of trees on that street were in the last, 3 years or so? They've been cutting down trees that have had diseases or whatever on that street, so. anyway.
Just to add to that publicly, since we brought it up, DPW takes care of all of our grounds.
Oh.
And they assess all of that. They're very good and they really keep up on everything on our property. So quick shout out to DPW, thank you. But also just so you know that they really keep an eye on all that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for a very thorough explanation of the capital plan. The next item will be a discussion about the student activities accounts.
Okay. You'd be sick of hearing from me.
Never,
by the end of it.
never.
All right, this is a DESI requirement, so essentially, if a club isn't used within a 3-year period, if their activity account has, oh, yeah, thank you, Chris. Has become dormant, then you need to deactivate that account and transfer the money to other accounts. And so we've gone through that process. This is part of the, this will be part of the yearly housekeeping we do at the end of each year. We'll evaluate which accounts haven't been used. So the list of club organizations, and these are provided by the individual schools. So 3 schools have
Thank you.
student activity accounts. The high school obviously has the largest number of clubs and organizations within it. That is, a large number, as I mentioned. That Lawrence has about 24 clubs or activities accounts, and then Morse Pond has only a handful. And so you'll see the club organization left column, the residual balance that's in that account, the last date of activity, and then the recommendation by the principal as to where to transfer that account to. And so these are, these are fairly, with the exception of rugby and the Team Plus account, these are not a large dollar amounts. The rugby amounts is being transferred to the wrestling club, etc. You'll see some where you see the team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the left. Lawrence School had 6 teams, 3 for 7th grade, 3 for 8th grade. They now dropped down to 4 teams. So we're just consolidating those teams and taking the balance. So in the 1711.32, that's being distributed to the 2 remaining 7th grade teams. And the 1252 will be spread to the 2 remaining 8th grade teams, etc. The other ones for Lawrence are really just a name change. There's no, but we have to sort of follow the rules here. And the Team Plus was a discontinued program 2019. That balance is to be made available into this where the principal can use it for field trips or for student activities in general. So that's where you see principal discretion. So, any questions on that?
Chris?
So where some of these accounts just go back? Like, how far back do they go?
Well, they're if you look at
Oh, so I'm sorry.
yeah, it's 2018, there was no activity.
Okay.
So 3 years is the rule. There's been clubs that have been inactive for longer than that. We're just catching up. Next year, when we do this, we'll probably have 1 or 2 versus the list that you see here. So we're just bringing ourselves into compliance with DESI.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. So
Are there any class of 2000?
no, actually, we did all that last year.
Okay,
So those, any class, so to Sue's question, if you had a class from 2015, you have to go through the same process. If they had a balance in the account, you have to go back to the class officers and have them either come up with a way of spending it or
have a
to,
party.
to have them donate it back to the school, etc.
Any other questions going around the room? Okay, yes,
So when it goes from golf club to unified basketball or rugby to wrestling or Portuguese club to Clippers for Change, does that mean that Portuguese club, rugby and golf club no longer exists?
Yeah. Yeah, when you see no activity, the
Right.
club has not existed.
Hmm.
Either there's been no kids, no faculty advisor, it's been dormant.
Okay, interesting.
Just. Lori?
Sorry. Wow, I'm having trouble. And in July, you'll vote on, these accounts, so closing accounts. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda is an update of the building needs task force. So Melissa and Sue.
Sure, bear with me while I just open my document. So, the building needs task force update at the last meeting on 6/16/25, it was unanimously decided the mission was completed. Chairman, Dr. Antonucci opened discussions on universal pre-K, then discussions on what we were gonna call pre-K. If it was gonna be universal or what have you, nomenclature, if you will. Then rolling into the need for pre-K discussions, discussions included rolling admissions, growing staff, etc. Dr. Antonucci states we can endorse, but it's up to the school committee and we are not micromanaging. The first motion was to support preschool education at Falmouth Public Schools. This was seconded and unanimously passed. The discussion on the NESDEC options as well as navigating the future options, discussions on current school options. There was much discussions around there. A motion was recommended for the school committee to implement an early child center for school year 28-29 to redesign boundary lines and bus routes with plenty of time for staff and family input. This was seconded and discussions were heard. Concerns with current issues and dates being so far in advance that K-4 is not currently equitable. Timeline on preschool before 28-29 being very intentional. Current students and future students in pre-K and their specific needs. 3 members opposed and the rest were in agreement and the motion carried. After the motion, a member who voted against it clarified it was because she thought the timeline was too far in advance and she was not alone with that concern. However, agreed with the motion. So there was conversation I'm just highlighting this one piece. There was conversation to not just combine 2 schools, but to look at the equity across the elementary schools as a whole, to specifically to not jam up 2 schools kind of thing, or 2 schools into one kind of thing. There was lots of discussion around there. That's kind of it. It was sort of, I don't know, Sue, what would you say the vibe was? The vibe.
Agreement.
I think it went well. I think that Dr. Antonucci pointed out that due diligence was done. Dr. Antonucci and Dr. Durr were very grateful and thankful to the people who not just sat at the table, but at the people who sent in their thoughts, who participated, who showed up, who asked questions, and that's about it. It's my update. Sue, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay,
Very good.
Thank you guys.
sure.
Okay. Now,
Chairman Darris, can we ask questions about the update or not?
I
just had one question, that's it. It'll be quick.
no,
Okay.
we just received the update. We'll think on it. We're not ready at this time to entertain any kind of questions. Okay?
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is to act on school committee meeting dates.
So moved.
Second?
Where is it? I guess
Of course.
it's start in the middle time for questions. So Melissa, do you have any questions?
Oh, God. I haven't even, no. No.
Kelly?
Oh, sorry, no,
Chris?
sure.
Nope.
All right.
Margaret?
I just wanted to ask the September one I had forgotten, it was because of Rosh Hashanah that we only have one, right?
Right.
Do we generally observe a lot of holidays in our planning for the school committee? I just don't remember that discussion last year, so I'd love to know.
We do recognize the high Jewish holidays.
But not like Muslim holidays or special Ramadan days or, you know, just wondering how far, okay.
No, Sue,
I appreciate the fact that the November 24th meeting was moved back to the previous Monday. I think we'll have more participation that way.
right. And Sharon and I checked and it's a selectmen's off week, so we're fine with that, yeah, because we can't afford to lose a meeting. Okay. All right, any more comments? So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, good. Passed unanimously. Next item is the assignments, subcommittee assignment.
Great, thanks, Fran.
Okay, Margaret, I guess it's your turn to start.
Yep.
Questions?
Yep. Is the Health and Safety Committee, the Health Committee I was on, is it disappeared or is it some other title?
We didn't have anyone that wanted to sit on it, so maybe it's my committee, so. I mean, sometimes we have a school committee person assigned, sometimes we don't. It all depends on whether people, so we did remove it because they're.
Okay,
There
no,
was
I
a
just
concern
wondered,
on that one.
okay. The other kind of thing I had mentioned was I think it's sometimes helpful to have a person who can substitute if the person can't come. But that's okay if we don't want to do that.
Okay. Any other comments? One thing that I researched, you know me, I'm the queen of research this year. Anybody can go to any meeting. You know, we worry about the 3 people assigned to these standing committees, for example. Sometimes we toy with 4 people on them. We don't want to, you know, you worry about open meeting laws, but anybody on this committee and all 9 of us can go together as long as you listen. Because quote unquote, you have as much business and privilege to be at these subcommittee meetings as the public. You're just listening, you can't comment. So, and I recommend people to go to other meetings than the ones you're assigned on. Like once in a while, I'd like to pop in on a budget, because aside from what Paul has educated us about and very well, the budget to me is fuzzy, so anybody can go to them, okay? Just don't talk. Yes.
I don't think that's true for negotiations, so I have to
Yeah.
say.
I would say
you can't
that,
do
thank you.
Because
nego-
we have ground rules.
Yeah.
Are they open to the public though?
No.
Okay, so that's the difference. I
I
was
just
thinking,
didn't want people to see it on the agenda and be like, oh, I'm gonna come, and then
no, if
that
they're,
would be.
if they're public
Right,
meetings is what I was talking about, okay?
They're all executive session.
Yeah. Okay, so. Do we vote on this? Yeah, Mike?
Yep.
Yep, we're in discussion.
I'll
Yep.
vote on it.
Oh, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstention, any noes or abstention? You're abstaining? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is to act on the memorandum of understanding about the sewer installation contract. So
Kelly's getting the second. We're
Yes, I
doing
am,
this.
sorry, I'm slow this time. Okay, keep it simple for Sharon.
Did Lori
Sharon,
wanna
I'm the one doing the work here. Thanks.
Did Lori want to say something?
I just wanted to, yes, maybe introduce it.
Yeah.
Glad you guys are. Just, this is just the, for the public, just to remind everyone that the sewer project that was voted at town meeting and then on the ballot is the sewer project in Teaticket. And the reason we're voting on a memorandum of understanding is that the substation for the sewer project is already installed on the corner piece of the Teaticket property. And they will use that main line, the substation for the line that goes off the corner of the property. And it's all underground for the piping, and when it's done, they'll restore the grass and anything else that's disturbed. But just want to say that.
Okay. I don't know about taking a question from the audience on this.
I have a different understanding of that line from Amy Lowell, so, I have bought the property. And I granted verbally, and now,
Yes,
The board
Yeah, we
has
can't-
to come up and say his address, if you were gonna allow him to speak.
I mean, she told me that this was gonna be discussed tonight, and I didn't think, if she didn't come, then it wouldn't properly be discussed. And she's not here, so.
He's got
the
to
select
like
board
that,
is gonna
if
be-
he's gonna talk, he has to come to the table and close the meeting.
Yeah,
But the select board is gonna vote on this in July,
Count.
the same
Hmm.
line that's coming through the school property. that
Sir,
was-
if you're gonna talk, you're gonna have to come.
Oh, if I'm invited up, I have.
Well,
you know what, let's leave it, let's just cut it, you can contact us. You can call tomorrow or something.
This is what we done at opening meeting at the school committee, at what they will.
It is being
It's
done.
gonna be voted by the select board next month, after this board that gets their vote. So if this vote doesn't happen, that vote won't happen. And what we need to have done has to be done.
But we're about to vote on that.
Harry,
Yes,
I believe, and I believe, and I don't know this gentleman, I don't know Amy Lowell necessarily, but she works for the town. So this seems to be a question to go to the select board, and it does not affect the
But
vote.
it does affect the town school, because to put the easement in through my property, they have to tie in the line through my property from the school properties. We can't dig on the school property without.
So-
But our vote is only to allow
To allow, yes.
that for
Thank you.
on the Teaticket property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing.
And with
with
nothing to do it
easement,
beyond,
that.
with nothing beyond our property.
yeah,
If the
But
town
that
decides
goes
not to
through-
do it,
goes through
then they
my
wouldn't do
property.
it, but what we're voting on is we would allow that to happen.
I can tell Amy that it wasn't.
okay.
Well, and I think it's a town issue, not.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not our,
I agree.
yeah. Not to poo-poo your concern, but it isn't really in our domain, so,
That will be.
Yes.
It's not fun. That'll be too late for you, summer.
okay.
All right.
I'm sorry that we can't hear you anymore. Okay, so do we have a motion on this?
Well,
Already
Yeah,
we
there-
did. Okay, and any other
And
questions?
I second it.
Okay,
So I now have more questions, like we didn't have a first read on this, and now we have concerned citizens, and not that I certainly don't wanna hem up the flow, but I also feel some sort of responsibility to be good neighbors to our neighbors. So
Want to table it to July 8th?
I hate to do, when is the select board supposed to?
And I'm not sure, because you guys have to vote before they can vote,
Right. That's the way it is.
But
because we're only voting on the property.
Terry.
yeah,
So I think we need to be really careful to stay in our lane. And if an abutter has an issue, I understand your point, but I think we only have control over the things we have control over. And the only thing that we're saying is if the town proceeds with this project, they can use the corner that they already use, basically. So I think that the additional issue of an easement with an abutter, that's a town, like Mike said, that's a town issue. And what we have before us tonight is the portion of it that pertains in our lane.
Can I, oh, sorry.
Oh, Paul can go for me.
yeah, Paul,
Yeah, can I just add some clarification? So there's a sewage line that currently runs from the building down to the back, as Dr. Dora was mentioning, to the lift station in the back. They're gonna add another line that comes from the Pearl Lane to that will connect into our sewage line to that lift station in the back. And then they will dig a third line that will go back up. That is, will go back up to the major station that they're building, the Augusta property on Brick Kiln Road. So they need these lines to be put in place in order to affect the sewaging of this neighborhood. And I believe this gentleman is one of the abutters on that property line that has an agreement to have that third line come through his property, not with us, just that's what the town's agreement with. So the town needs these lines dug as part of the new sewage system. They will be between 5 and 6 feet below the surface. They will not affect the basketball court or the playground that is in the back. I've walked this area with Amy Lowell. And so it really has no impact on the surface level. If there's any damage done in the dropping of these lines, they will pick up the cost of any restoration work. So they have to do this though, and they have to have our approval first in order to start the project with the town. So I think that's the point here tonight.
Oh, just say they're going underground, like with one of those.
Yeah, these lines will be buried roughly around 6 feet.
So they don't, are they like digging into the ground or?
Yeah,
put a
they
thing
get down,
under?
yeah, they're sewage lines, so they'll be down below the surface, and any disruption to the property within the Teaticket school property line will be
They're
restored.
cutting down like a deep knot, like with that machine that goes in.
They are having this. Just again, to reiterate, we're voting, if the town votes to move forward, they've had our approval to use our. It's up to the town to vote and deal with anything else. All we're giving permission if it goes forward.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
To use it.
That's all we're just voting on our property.
Yeah.
Not the
And-
overall project. Sorry.
And as I understand, if there's any destroying of trees or things on our property, it will be
It'll be
replaced.
restored.
So I would venture, I don't want to speak for the town, but and a butter, I would think would have the same recompense for damage. I don't know, that's just my opinions, so.
Well, I'm granting the town 2,000 square feet of my property as an easement, save the town about $160,000. Because if they don't have a gravity system, and they have to go up Pearl Lane to Mira Vista, the town has to provide binder pumps where they pay for them, all the electronics, we pay for the installation. But it's gravity, if it's gravity, it goes through my yard, there are 13 grinder pumps eliminated, which saves about $160,000 in excavation costs on 28, and they're gonna go through my property, connect to Mira Vista to go to Brick Hill. I agree with that, the attorneys have done it, my attorney, town attorney, have agreed to all of everything. And Amy said that you were gonna go tonight to allow them to dig now in to time me into phase 1. So I don't have to wait 3 years to have that project come through my yard, so I could build an addition on my house. That's all been approved by Amy and the school board, but it goes through all these steps.
That's right, I'm sorry, I didn't know
And
you.
it's not Iris.
Okay,
32.
he's our butter on the property on the corner of that piece. And his property will be connected into ours, plus the force main, the main sewage that they pump back to the treatment center will go through his property, so he's that's what he said, he's come to an agreement with town, so the issue isn't that he has a complaint about this
No.
process, he's in support of the process of what the town's asking us to do. And again, these are being buried. If there's any disruption to any of the playground area, the basketball courts, etc., the town will cover that. So
You want us to vote yes.
Yes.
It's my
That was not
understanding.
clear, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I was under the impression Amy was gonna be here to say, pay that.
Amy was planning on being here, but she had planning committee tonight, that's why she couldn't come here.
She called me and told me this was gonna happen, that I made something with that, so that's why. Just to get for clarification. So she can't dig on your property this summer without permission from the school.
Okay.
Different department.
Thank
Voting
you.
aye.
Great.
Okay, all voting?
Wait, chair.
So we already have the.
We have a
motion and a second.
Okay.
Are we done with discussion?
Yeah,
Great.
that's okay. All those in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming in. Thanks very much. I didn't mean to be shutting you off, but
Fly on the wall, right?
Yeah.
Gentlemen have the information.
yeah,
So, I'm sorry, what is it?
Paul Bear.
Paul has the information, so I just wanted to make that public, so we knew that they'd like to be like ASAP. So we can tie in and build our addition 75, I want to have the addition done when I'm 78.
You look great for 75.
Yeah,
It's not as scary.
For the second.
shut your mouth.
Yay.
Be quiet, be quiet. You were just waiting to slip that in, okay. All right, we gotta move on now. I'm just kidding. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to act on memorandum of agreement with an FEA. I'm having a hard time
That's all right.
articulating that.
Motions in the second.
Okay,
Yeah,
You just
I just wait for Lori to introduce it.
okay, so I guess it's Chris's turn to start. Do you have any questions or?
Lori, wanna
No,
talk about
We're
it?
gonna talk about
okay.
So this is just to, we have, every now and then, we have a difficult time finding a certified teacher for some of our programs. And we are very fortunate to have some teaching assistants that can step into that role. So in this situation, the current contract allows teachers to we would pay teachers $50 a day if they step in for the teacher's role. But I'm saying if it's going to be long-term, I think that they absolutely deserve a higher funding level. So what we're agreeing to is, if a member's more than 10 consecutive days, they would be paid $75 a day. And if it's more than 60 days, it would be $100 a day, and this is on top of the regular salary. So when they step in, it happens very rarely, but this MOA allows us to retro pay a situation this year where a TA actually said it stepped in with if we did not have another person. So I appreciate the vote. We can make our goal.
Thank you for doing what you make for them.
We're going to-
Yeah.
Any comments? No, okay,
I'll
so,
be recusing myself because of family member in Unit C.
okay. Thank you, all right. All those in favor then? Any opposed or abstaining? One person abstaining. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we will move along to routine business, which would be the minutes. Anybody make a motion on those?
Second, and I have edit. There's a tiny typo, it looks just like a typo in the motion to move into executive session. Just says FEA Units A, B, C, and AMP. It's just a typo.
Page 1.
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay,
Hmm.
all right. Is that the only edit?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstaining? Okay. Are there any committee reports? No committee reports,
Sorry.
okay,
Two quick things, one, if I my list, well, two, folks have been working on our materials and, hopefully we'll get them to the full committee at some point for review. That was the goal that we set in. And then I had a committee sort of report, I had mentioned to Terry just quickly before the meeting. We heard about the back to school bash, and I think it'd be awesome if the school committee was there. And have a table and chat with people, and I'm happy to organize. If. So do I.
never turn down volunteers, that's for sure. Okay, thank you, Cal. All right, are there any requests for follow-up? Mike,
It's not a follow-up, more so a comment. I'm gonna throw it in here. This feels like the time. I love everyone coming here. I love everyone at this table, but if we could refrain from talking during the meeting, that includes the public and the members of this committee, because I've noticed that over the last, few months, more and more people have been side talks and such. It's distracting. So if we, everything goes to the chair, and if we can keep it like that, including all you folks, that would be helpful, but also us here. So that's it.
Okay,
Thank you, Terry.
all right. We love decorum. Okay. Well, then I would take a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstaining? Yay, we're done early. Woo-hoo.
I'm not real, Terry.
10 minutes.
Hey, that's pretty good, Terry.